Welcome back to the Passion Podcast. I'm Laura, and I'm here with Ian.
Hey, how you
Ian,
doing?
do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Ian Jackson. I'm a photographer here in Gainesville, and I'm almost third year at UF.
That's awesome. So I know Ian because we did T Literary Arts magazine together.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm a historian, so I'm like making a documentary for them. And he was like the one who was overseeing it. You were the vice president last year, but now
Yes.
this upcoming year, you will be the president of T.
Yeah, I'm taking over.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's super exciting. So you're a photographer. That's your main passion, you would say.
Yeah. I think it's right now. It's definitely my main passion.
Have you ever submitted any of your photos to T?
Yeah, to T definitely. The first thing I ever submitted was just actually a little sketch I made last year, but this year I submitted some photography.
That's awesome. So what first got you into photography?
It must have been my uncle. My uncle was a professional photographer.
That's so cool.
Actually a sports photographer.
Mhm.
And I always saw his pictures hanging up on his wall, and at first I thought they were like some famous persons, and then he
Yeah.
would tell me, "Oh, I took that," and it just got me really interested. And my mom had this like professional camera that she never used, so I just took it out, and I kind of grew, fell in love with it.
Do you remember like the first picture you took that you really were like, oh, this is good?
I mean, I think it's hard because when you look back on your work,
Mhm.
you just kind of have this like dislike for it.
Definitely.
But I think it was I was taking a bunch of pictures of these like antique banks, like they're shaped like figures. And there's just one that I just got like, it looked creepy, is all I could say, and I really liked how it looked, and that kind of inspired me to keep going.
That's cool. We're definitely going to insert that picture here.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what about photography like drew you in at first?
Just that it's the only art form, I would say, or one of the few that can capture a whole story in just one image, or just like one like little glance. You could gain a whole story that I really respect and appreciate.
Mm-hmm. So where do you post the majority of your photos, or where's your like most common medium of like expression?
My most common, I mean, Instagram is a go-to, mainly because all my friends are on there and I could get a lot of good feedback. I'm trying to make a portfolio, but making a website's
that's
kind
awesome.
of hard.
Yeah, that's a pain.
But I don't know, I submit to a lot of places, like a lot of magazines and galleries. I'm not the best on like social media, so I usually just skip that step and go right to the end game.
Yeah, for sure. When you take a picture, what about the picture do you look at first, like to determine whether or not it's, good or up to your standards?
I guess the first thing is it me? Like, is this something that has my personality in it and my mindset? Is it actually like good application wise? Because maybe it's not like, okay, this is not directly me, but maybe there's something new to it, or there's some kind of good technique in it. Those are the two, mainly because with all, it's kind of hard to explain, but I could look at thousands of pictures right now for hours on end, and sometimes you get absorbed into that. So it's important to know what is your personality and what your take is on everything, and I think that's the most important thing.
How would you describe like your look or your, signature style in a photo?
My uncle always asks me this. Definitely, I'm just kind of weird. I'm very like, I'll take something that is supposed to be kind of like something that would be nice and pretty, and I would kind of distort it a little bit. So I just try to ask myself, like, what's the weirdest like story I could convey that makes sense to most people, and that's really it. Like I use really like kind of sometimes amateur editing techniques to get to my goal. That's the only way I could describe it.
What's the weirdest picture you've ever taken that you're like, that is so interesting looking?
I guess this is where you like insert the picture into the thing. Well, it's that one. It's this picture I took of what I said, those banks. Like I went on this David Leventhal. He created this series called War Games, where he used like toy action figures to depict war,
Hmm.
and it was a very interesting way of expression. So I got inspired by that. So I had these banks that are from like 1800s, and they're very creepy. And I decided I'm gonna put them in different locations to practice
Hmm.
photography. There was this beach one I did that I inverted and edited further, and it looks creepy. Definitely.
That's awesome.
It's the picture people always ask me about.
That's really cool. And since you moved, where are you from originally?
Tampa, Florida.
Okay, yeah, same.
Mhm.
I thought you were from Tampa.
Yeah.
When you first moved to Gainesville, what was your first like move as far as photography goes? How did you get into photography in Gainesville specifically?
Um, the Zephyr, I would say. Santa Fe College. They have a magazine called Zephyr, and that was the first place that ever published any of my work. And I remember seeing it, and at the time, I didn't have any of my models from Tampa.
Mhm.
I didn't know Gainesville at all to like know where are the best places to take pictures.
Yeah.
I saw the Zephyr, and I decided that I was just gonna go out and see what I could do. And it kind of got me out there into the art community of Gainesville. It got me looking at different places to take more pictures. I think that was what kind of got me into it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that about the art community of Gainesville. I didn't really realize the extent that the art community went, or even that there was really an art community until
Yep.
I got into tea. And it just seems like everyone in tea, like you included, has such like a multifaceted like art life in Gainesville. You know what I mean? Like you're into photography and literary arts and all of those fun things. What's the best thing about the Gainesville art scene specifically?
It's a loving community. It's hard to find. I'm gonna be the first to admit it, and it can kind of get hard to actually get into. But once you're in it, I feel like it's just loving. I see a lot of people from like all over from events. I'll see them like outside just walking around, and we'll talk. And there's so many people that you can share your art with and kind of collab with.
Mhm.
So once you find that community, I mean, it's just a loving family, I would say.
That's awesome. What's your dream career as far as like photography goes? Or is this something that you wouldn't want to pursue like a career in and just keep as like a hobby? Or like would you want to go into photography?
I didn't always want to go into photography. I always had this fear that I'd get too absorbed into it. That I may be like living out of my car or something, like
Yeah.
trying to take pictures.
Yeah.
But recently, I've kind of decided that I'm not gonna be afraid of that anymore. So
Let's go.
if I could, I mean, it'd be amazing to be a professional photographer, no matter what the life looks like.
Mhm.
Because I don't imagine it being like I'm living the life like in like rich in some hotel or something. Like I imagine it's not going to be the easiest, but
Yeah.
it would be amazing to express myself through photography.
Yeah. When you say like pursuing like a career in photography, like would you do like when I first hear that sentence, my mind immediately goes to like Met Gala carpet. Like, would you want to do like that kind of thing, or would you just strictly want to do like more artistic?
More artistic. Like I do things like that for like some side money now and then,
Mhm.
but it's a creative side that really gets my blood flowing when
Yeah.
I can like tell a story rather than like capturing just like a simple image.
For sure, yeah. I definitely could not. You're definitely way cooler than Met Gala.
Yeah, way cooler, way
paparazzi moment. Yeah. What was the moment where you first knew that you had like talent or skill as a photographer?
The thrift club. That must have been. I'm sorry. I'm just like sometimes my thought like
No,
it's
you're
like
good. You're good.
the UF's thrift club. I remember that they were doing their first gala event, and they were looking for photographers, and I was one of the first people that signed up, and they really liked my stuff. That they put me as this like there was no official title, but they wanted me to take pictures of 12 of their models in downtown, and I'd never done that before. And them having faith in me like that they would
Mhm.
like let me do it for like an hour and a half with 12 people's time. That was a big energy and ego boost, and
Mhm.
it was a good opportunity for me.
Do you prefer taking pictures of like, like having models and like taking pictures of people, or do you prefer like kind of the more like independent going around taking pictures of like, life?
Um, I mix it up sometimes. Like it's really hard to choose like a favorite, but I
Mhm.
think people, because I could use them to tell us like a very interesting story, and I'm not the best at like landscapes.
Yeah, I
And
feel like that would be hard.
yeah, I know people who are, and I feel like that's such a special eye to take something that I just glance at all the time and
Yeah,
make it something I'm gonna study. Um, but people are just they're really expressive, and
mhm,
that's why I like to incorporate them into my art.
for sure. Have you ever taken like a photography class at UF?
I took a non-major photography class a year ago,
Mhm,
and it was good. It got me out there like taking pictures,
mhm.
and like studying certain photographers.
I'm sure you meet like more people too who are into photography at the UF. Did you meet a lot of people through that class or not really?
No, this was during peak COVID time,
Oh
and
yeah.
we were just all online. It was during the summer too,
Hmm.
so I didn't really meet that many people, but we had good discussions.
That's true. You were right in the middle of college during the, COVID situation. How did that affect your art and your photography?
Um, not too bad. I mean, I think um, certain situations like that inspire you. Like they have the opportunity to either crush you or inspire you.
Definitely.
So when something like that happens, you just depends on how you turn it around. So maybe if I'm not working with people, maybe I do go more into like landscape art, or I go
Hmm.
into something else. You know,
Who's your favorite photographer?
I got to give a shout out to my uncle, Charles Humes.
We'll put some
Um,
of his photos up too so
yeah,
you guys can
definitely.
see.
He has amazing stuff, and I don't want to be like an uncle's boy or whatever, but like he is definitely my favorite photographer. Um, like he just inspires me a lot. Um, I could tell you someone else that's like that, like David Leventhal. If you're looking for someone who like people like other people would know easily, he has amazing stuff too.
Hmm. What about your uncle's photography really speaks to you?
He's really good. I feel like the best artists, not just photographers or painters or writers, they are storytellers.
Definitely.
And he is a storyteller that he could just say a lot in just one simple image, more than I've seen most professionals do.
Mhm. And you do like short films too, right? Or like you're
Yeah,
dabbling in
yeah,
that.
I try. I mean, not as much as you. You definitely like you're really good at videography,
Oh,
but I'm
thanks.
trying to get into it.
That's awesome. What's the biggest like difference for you creating like a short film, like video thing versus like taking pictures?
The steps involved
Mhm,
for photography, like I said, it's just one image or maybe like a series of images that
mhm.
tell something. For a film, all of it depends, like the sound you use, the
Yeah.
visuals, how you record the audio, what are they wearing, all that is what
Mhm.
kind of tells a story. And it's definitely it's different, let's just say that.
Yeah.
But it could be more rewarding, just depends.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like I take like I have like a Visco account. Like everyone has a Visco. But like I like taking pictures and whatever. And there's something like there's kind of like instant gratification that comes with it, which is so nice.
Yeah.
Because like with video production, it's honestly like sometimes it's like very fun and I love it, but the process is just like, in simplest terms, it's really annoying sometimes. But like with photography, like it's like such a spur of the moment thing too, where like if you see like the clouds are a certain way or whatever, like you take it and you capture it. I don't know, there's something so special and cool about that I just love, and I totally get what you're saying.
Are you gonna insert some of your photos into this, or
No,
like
they're not.
like cue it now? No, like
Absolutely
I
not.
haven't seen I've seen some of your videos, but I haven't seen enough of your photography yet.
They're literally it's like when I say like I'm into photography, I mean like like a picture of like my Starbucks drink.
Hey,
You know what I
that
mean?
tells a story. I mean, like, shoot, they had a deal that day. I mean,
Yeah, it's like my, pink drink with matcha cold foam and like the greens going down the thing.
there was
It's
something
awesome.
inspiring about it. You know?
It really spoke to me and I felt
Yeah,
like I needed to
yeah,
share it with the world.
yeah.
But
And she
yeah.
will be sharing it now.
You know
Yes.
what? I'm gonna drop it. There you go. Check this out. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Make it your screensaver if you want. What would you like what advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time, like photography related? Like when you were
Um.
first starting out.
Just keep doing it. Don't worry about like fancy edits.
Mhm.
And like don't get in your head about like what everyone else is doing.
Mhm.
Just do you and capture your own story.
How do you edit your pictures? Like what media do you use?
Um, I use a mix of different things. Like Photomosh, I use that a lot. Whenever I'm trying to get like like the best way to describe it is like psychedelic look. I use
Oh, that's cool.
Photomosh
Mhm.
Pixfleur. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but I use that, and yeah, those are the main ones. I really stick to like really basic edits, like street photography kind of look.
Mhm. I think the thing about like photography that overwhelms a lot of people is like the editing process,
Yeah.
because honestly, like if you're not naturally like, tech savvy, or it can be really difficult
Yeah.
and discouraging.
Sometimes I have a theory that they make it more like hard to use. I think just because maybe it's like weeding us out. See,
Most
won't
definitely.
make it, but I just think it could be a little distracting. Like I think you could like create a whole world with those types of
Hmm.
applications. But sometimes your photo doesn't need like edits. Sometimes you just need to
Hmm.
like add more light to it or change the contrast just a little bit.
What's the photo that you've taken that you've done like the least amount of editing on, where you're like, this naturally as it is like amazing?
Off the top of my head, I recently did one for my friend Orlanis in Tampa,
Hmm.
and she well we kind of did this like I like to say like a swamp like widow kind of look,
Oh,
and
cool.
we just hit the golden hour, and my uncle first taught me that the golden hour is like the best time for photos because it doesn't matter what it is, what you're wearing, you're gonna look amazing. Whenever I take golden hour pictures, I don't really need to edit them at all. They
Hmm.
come out really good.
Yeah. No, for sure. Me and my friends, every time everyone, I think this is just a common thing for all like teen early 20s girls to be like golden hour. Oh my god, it's a perfect Instagram selfie. It's a perfect time.
It is.
It really is. But yeah, I imagine I've never honestly. This is like embarrassing. I've never tried to take a picture of anything but a selfie during golden hour. So I'm interested to see how like um landscapes and stuff
Yeah.
look during that time. That's awesome. Um, what's been your biggest challenge as far as like either getting into photography or pursuing photography?
Um, that's a hard one. I guess at first it was finding subjects.
Hmm.
That's why that class actually during UF was really good because it
Hmm.
does force you out of the house to take pictures.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're kind of our like photographers are the worst like competition for ourselves. That like
Hmm.
you kind of tell yourself like, oh, I have nothing to take a picture of, or I have
Yeah.
nothing to really capture. So like just going out and actually looking for things, keeping your mind open to the fact that
Hmm.
like maybe that telephone pole could actually become like a piece of art.
Yeah.
That was definitely hard at first.
Yeah. It's also hard too because like I feel like with any art community, there's a lot of like supportive, like nature and like helpful and sweet energy, but there's also like there's always going to be like kind of like a competitive vibe, or like a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but some people who are involved in art can be a little bit pretentious. So
Yes.
that's like hard to navigate when you're trying to do work, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I think it's just Gainesville, like how small. I mean it's everywhere, but Gainesville
Yeah.
is how small it is. Sometimes people get caught up in using the same artists all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of people use the same like photographer for events over and over again, and it can
Hmm.
get frustrating because you have a like perspective to this that I could show.
Yeah.
Um,
There's
but
like monopolies on like
yeah, and it's like it's something you can really say like why are you not doing this?
yeah.
Um, but I understand that like it kind of get bad when people are kind of showing off their work.
I think like with any like form of art, that's definitely like an obstacle that people face. Just like, and I feel like that's true with any like profession or, interest. There's always, you're always competing against yourself, but also like realistically, it's, you're fighting for these jobs against
Yeah.
like other people, like against your peers too, so that's pretty difficult. Um, what like what's your photo that you would say is the most like technically excellent that you've taken or like edited or anything like
Um, I took this photo of See, I'm kind of weird. Like part of me is like, don't say it, because I want to like guard all this. Just like you said about competition,
that? Yeah,
I've realized that like sometimes you have to hold things like close to heart when you're
definitely.
trying to be an artist.
Hmm.
But there's this picture that started off as a picture of a statue, just a regular statue, and as I continued editing it, I made it into something else. Which, if you include it here, then you understand what I mean. But
Yeah, I'll put it up there.
it's a very I feel like it was one of the first photos that I actually made into like art rather than just like this.
Wow, that's awesome. And which picture do you have invokes the most like emotion out of you? Like you feel something when you look at it.
These pictures I took during a Roe versus Wade protest.
Mm-hmm.
Randomly, this happened. Just one day, I was coming from the library and I ran into a protest, and I decided to grab my camera and I took this really good picture that kind of just showed a lot of emotion, a lot of perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that that's something that's so beautiful about photography too, because like with other art forms, like even video production, where like you're it's kind of like it's I mean it's very similar to photography. You're both visually like capturing something, but there's some like with photography, you only get like one frame, and so it kind of like makes the viewer fill in the gaps in their own head and can like really invoke like a personal emotion in them. You know what I mean? Like they kind of project themselves and their feelings onto the image. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's really cool. Um, have you ever had that experience like with a like what's a picture that you've seen that like someone else took? Like maybe like someone in the Gainesville community that they took that you were like that's a really that invokes a lot of emotion in me, that photo.
Um,
Or even like a photo that you really like that someone in Gainesville did.
yeah. Well, I'll include it right here. And it just showed like I don't want to describe it too much, just so people can have their own perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it just showed like a lot of range, a lot of emotion to me, and I tried to get inspired, even though we may be like all competitors. I try to just get inspired by my fellow photographers.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the biggest lesson you've learned through doing photography?
Um, just to keep at it. I mean, that's. I feel like a lot of people have amazing skills as photographers, but maybe there's too much competition, or they kind of get turned off by the editing, like how much you have to go into it, or that galleries that you have to pay to submit, like sometimes they don't like your work. Um, I just had to keep going. A lot of my pictures at first just had like were just a little too out there for people to enjoy, but I had to realize that like if I make it for myself, then I'll always have.
Yeah, and something I like remind myself too with like doing video production or doing this is like no, you can't really please everybody, and well, not you can't really like you physically cannot please everybody. It's impossible. So it's important to just do things that like make you happy, make you feel some type of way, because I mean it's impossible that you're going to be the only person on the planet who likes something. You know what I mean? Someone else is always going to relate to it as well. What's the biggest thing you learned about yourself through photography?
I'm a little like my mind is kind of unorganized. I'm definitely like I want to be able to sit down and like edit something or go out there and take pictures on a certain time frame. But I'm not. There are just times where out of nowhere I'll be sitting reading a book and I'm like, I want to take pictures now, and I'll get up and go. And that's not always bad, but it's definitely that's definitely something I learned about myself.
That's cool. It's like intuitive photography. Yeah, that's cool. They should make that like a name of like that's
Point it first.
yeah, TM. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ian. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the podcast, or do you have anything to plug?
I'll give a shout out to my friend Dennis Lazo Torres, otherwise known as Cheese with the Z.
Let's go, Cheese.
He's this rapper up and coming in Tampa, and he does a lot of good photos. He's making a short film with me right now called Dog Days.
That's exciting.
His Instagram is just Cheese Disease on. He's really amazing guy.
That's cool. Okay, we'll put that up there. Well, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Read T Literary and Arts Magazine. I think applications will be coming out if you want to join the staff. What, in like fall probably, or like in the summer?
Come join the team, work with us. I mean,
yeah,
this has become a tea commercial now, so
yeah,
work with us. It's gonna be really fun this year, and a lot of things are gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.